Not too far down the road here, there's a little country church nestled in a quaint environment. And probably right about now, people are gathering, as they do every Sunday. One Sunday in particular, the church was a little bit set back because most everybody knew everybody. But on this particular day, just before the service was about to begin, an old, disheveled, probably homeless fellow comes walking in from the back of the room, takes a seat down in the very front. And not only is his appearance offensive to some, but also so is the aroma coming from him as well. So people kind of one by one began to get up and relocate themselves in the room because they found it to be offensive. As the service was concluding, the pastor was in the back of the room saying goodbye and thanking everybody for coming. And one of the last people to come through the line was this disheveled fellow. The pastor went up to him and took him by the hands and said, "Listen, fellow," he says, "I need for you to do me a favor this week. I need for you to go to God in prayer and ask God what is the appropriate manner that you should arrive within the walls of this church in terms of your dress and your personal hygiene." So the man left. He said, "I'll do that, Pastor, I'll do that." Next week, the guy returns, comes down the aisle just before the service starts, takes a seat in the front of the room, and once again, he's offensive not only in his appearance, but also in his odor. And as he's leaving, the pastor is a little bit upset now. He says, "Fella, I thought I told you last week you needed to go talk to the Lord about how you should show up in the walls of this church." And the fellow says, "Well, Pastor, that's exactly what I did." And the pastor says, "Well, what did God tell you?" "God told me he wouldn't know how I should show up because he'd never been here." Just kind of love that story because I think it really does show us, how so often we really do think that we know what our values are, what's important to us. That's what we're studying last week, today, and next week. And yet, we can proclaim values, can't we? We can say, well, we're all inclusive, we welcome everybody, and everybody is the Christ presence. And yet, do we actually show up that way? So while it has a bit of a sting to it, to me, it's kind of a wake-up call. How am I showing up in the world? And am I really bringing my best to bear? Last week, if you were here, you will know that we began an exploration into what I call valuable living. And I want you to know I'm so grateful for the opportunity to spend these 3 weeks with you discussing this subject because it's been a part of my ministry in my life for decades, actually. And as I stepped into retirement last year, part of my motivation behind that was to finally write the book on how to live a valuable life or a value-abled life. And you're a part of this experiment with me, my friends. A lot of the material that I'm sharing has been developed over years and years, but some of it is brand new and fresh as recently as yesterday as I was putting this together. So I appreciate your joining with me in the creation of something that I believe is extremely important in the world today. And that is that we have the ability to get in touch with what matters to us. As I said last week, it does not matter to me what is important to everybody else. I've spent most of my life trying to figure out what was most important to everybody else and try to adopt that for myself. Value systems don't work that way. Beliefs don't work that way. And sometimes we go out and we fervently try to convert people to agree with our perspectives, our values, our beliefs, our religion. Have you seen any of that? It just doesn't work, my friends. It's unique and it's individual to every one of us. So we began last week by talking about the value inventory. And I was very, very grateful to have gotten a number of emails as recently as last night from some of you telling me that you've actually put this exercise into practice. You have a handout this morning that has not only the information from last week on it, but also the information you're going to need for today. And it starts out with the value inventory. The rules are honesty, just to go into the experience with a level of honesty, objectivity, free of judgment, no right, no wrong, no good, no bad. Let's just check in. Does everybody have the handout here? Or does anybody not have one? Do you need to raise your hand so you can receive one? Because I see that somebody's right there behind us and ready to bring it. So keep your hand up and you'll get a copy in just a moment. So the rules, I call them, of the value inventory are honesty, objectivity, free of judgment, because you'll find some things, you'll find some values, every one of us will, my friends, that we're really proud of. Well, this is my value, and see how beautifully I live it, and that's great. But we'll also find some things that we are holding as valuable that maybe we're not so proud of. Because you see, if you're experiencing something in your life, it can only be experienced because in some way you value it. You might not be aware of why you value it, and you might not even know where you picked that value up from. I picked up a few values from my third grade teacher, and I won't go into the details on that, but I'm not proud of all of them. Some of them have been like shame and guilt and misfortune and things like that. So really look at that, because you want to be clear on what's important to you so that you can translate that out into your day-to-day experience. Compassion, always self-compassion, and always self-appreciation. The resources. How do I find out what I value? Because a lot of these values I'm completely unconscious of. So we have resources that can be found in our calendar, in our checkbook. Where is our energy going? Where are our resources going? These will give you very honest indications of what's important to you, because we tend not to invest in what's not important to us. We tend to invest, rather, in what is important, what has significance to us. Look at your environment, look around you at the possessions that you have. They will speak volumes on what is important to you, I believe. Look at what you're good at, what you enjoy, what you're often praised for. You can find a lot of your values nestled in those experiences, peak experiences in your life where you really went off the chart and feeling great and good about yourself. Identify what it was that you were connecting with in that experience. And finally, and I really encourage this because I'm going to share with you today, I tried to make it as simple as I could, but it's kind of a complex process of identifying and living in integrity with your values. But I encourage you not so much to follow my prescription, because again, that's what I have found, but follow a prescription that works for you. Do some research on this. Friends, understanding your value system and living in integrity with it, I guarantee it will shift and change your life experience. It's that significant, because you're the one that is playing this game, and you're the one that is designing what happens to you in your life every day, whether you're aware of it or not, by virtue of the values that you are holding. So get into Google and do a little bit of research. Go on YouTube and check out some videos. There's a plethora of them out there where people are talking about the importance of values, specifically and perhaps most significantly, core values. But there's lots of different means and methods whereby you can discern what is most important to you and start to consciously and intentionally direct your life in more fulfilling and satisfying ways. And finally, we discussed the arenas last week. We have practiced values. Those are values that we are currently living, and we're not only living them, but we have some evidence in our life experience where we can see how we're living them. And those are probably the values that we're operating with the greatest level of fulfillment in, because we're believing in them and we're living them, and we can look out into our world and see, here's some evidence that this value is important to me and that I'm aligned with it. Secondly, we have professed values. Now, these are the ones that we like to proclaim to everybody. Oh, I'm a good Unity student, and I have a wonderful life, and everything goes perfect for me, and I love everybody and everything. That's a wonderful value to profess, but it may or may not have a lot of evidence in your day-to-day experience. And just be honest with that. Again, no right, wrong, good, or bad. And finally, last but not least, our preferred values. Those are values we identify that we realize we may not be living, but we would like to aspire to live more in integrity with. And then I asked you, as you make these discoveries in your checkbook, in the things that are around your home, begin to identify these values, make a comprehensive list, as long as it needs to be, of everything you can find that you believe is valuable. And that's as far as we got last week. But today, my subject is Hocus Pocus. We're all familiar with Hocus Pocus, right? It's a magical term. Say Hocus Pocus, they're magic words. Well, I'm here to tell you this morning, Hocus Focus is also magical words. Hocus, focus. What you focus upon, what you give your energy and your attention to, becomes the reality of your day-to-day existence. This is fundamental spiritual truth. What you think about, you bring about. So it becomes important to us now. We've got this big, long list of everything we could identify that was valuable to us. Now we want to move in with focus. The Buddha said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become, which is the same as saying what you focus upon, what you give your attention to, you become. And most of us have heard the familiar phrase, where attention goes, energy flows, and results follow. So this is important. If you want to improve your situation, if you want your life to be an optimal life experience, it's not difficult. It just takes persistence, and it takes time, and it takes you deciding this is important, this is valuable. If I don't say anything else, or if you don't hear anything else from me this morning, because I will say a lot before I'm done, but if you didn't hear anything else, this is what I would want you to hear. Don't think about and don't talk about what you don't want. I'm going to say that again. Don't think about, and above all, don't talk about anything you don't want. And I'll say, for the sake of conversation this morning, to the best of your ability, because we all talk about things that we don't really want. But when we think about things, that generates energy. When we convert that thinking into verbiage, it gives it even more power, because there's power, as we know from unity, in the spoken word. So if you don't want something in your life, don't think about it, and for heaven's sake, do your best not to talk about it any more than you absolutely have to. It's important information. I believe that as we look out, think about for just a moment, like in my case, I can think back 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago to what seems like a simpler life. I look at my granddaughter, 13 years old, and I think that girl is barraged with information, with data coming at her from every direction. It used to be maybe you'd turn on the TV and watch the news, but now the news is everywhere. It's 24/7 on the screen. It's on your phone. So we're bombarded with all this information. And I believe this is an invitation. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's an invitation from the universe to crank up our focus, you see, because the more stuff there is out here, the more potential distraction there is. That's why it's so important to know, this is important to me. The rest I'm going to put over here, because it's too much, if you haven't noticed, for anybody to completely comprehend. There's just too much information. So we have to decide, what are the topics? What are the issues? What are the priorities for me? And do our best then to keep our language and our thoughts and our life focused around just that. Starve your distractions and feed your focus. Starve your distractions. We don't need them. And we're the only ones that can control that, my friends, but we can control it because we have the power of free will and we have the great mind that we have. George Lucas said, always remember, your focus determines your reality. And Tony Robbins, your life is controlled by that which you focus on. If you refer to your handout, the section under that value inventory has a subheading of refining and defining. And that's what we're about this morning. We're going to refine and define our value system. It starts with something that's simple, but it's a recent revelation. Actually, Karen and I, she helped me to come up with this, but it was something, a missing piece that I was looking for in the formula for valuable living. It's to distinguish between values and valuables. And the distinguishment is that values, as you see in your handout, I tried to capture this so you can take it with you if you choose to enter into a program like this. Values are eternal. Values cannot be taken from us. They're spiritual in nature. Whereas valuables are temporary. They're subject to loss, and they're material in nature. Both are wonderful. And this valuable living program, it doesn't really care whether you're dealing with a value or a valuable. It'll work either way. When I first began this process 40-some years ago, we needed diapers for a newborn baby. So I put diapers down as being valuable because they were to me. They were like gold back then. And we didn't make much money. I was working here at Unity Village, and I love this place, but they weren't exactly paying record-setting salaries at that time. So on very little, that's what I did, and it worked. It worked for many, many years in terms of acquiring material possessions. So it'll work for you in that regard. But what you find is, I had a great mentor and teacher once that said to me, you can only eat so many steak dinners. Excuse me, vegetarians, for even bringing up the subject. But you can you can only put your arms around so much material possession before you begin to realize there's something else here. There's something deeper and more lasting that I really want. And it has nothing to do with materiality. Now you're moving from the realm of the valuables into the realm of the value. And so as you begin this process of refining, defining, and cleaning up your list, take that into consideration and create a distinction on your list between what is a value and what is valuable. Then take a moment to prioritize the values. We can get to the valuables later, but right now we want to really focus on the values. Prioritize them. And this is not always easy to do. It takes time because a lot of values, we're trying to get down to some core values here. But we have to start somewhere. So let's start by just setting up, okay, what's the most important of all these all these values that I've established for my life? And once you've prioritized that, this part is easy. You just go take the top 3 to 5, 7 at the most, top values. And some of you have written to me this last week and said, that's the hard part, because I've got all these values, but how do I just say what's most important out of everything that's most important to me? Coming up then by setting these priorities with a set of core values, ideally 3 to 5. And then my invitation to you is to write what I will call a defining statement for each one of these core values. And don't go to the dictionary for that definition, because this has to come right up out of your own heart. This is so important to you. You've decided that it's your top core value. It's so significant to you. Trust your own intuition. Take a moment, close your eyes, open yourself to divine guidance and discernment, and say, what does this word mean to me? What does this word mean to me? If you look back to your, actually this is on the reverse side of your handout. I'm giving you 2 examples here. And these are my own core values taken from my own valuable living program in my life. The first one you'll see is number 1 core value is peace. And that's simply because I have found that it's difficult for me to be an unconditionally loving person in the world if I'm not at peace in my heart. Then I thought, what really does peace mean to me? So I write this defining statement. And I'm not offering this information to you for your use specifically. I need you to do this for yourself. But that's what I've done is I've said, what does it mean to me? It means freedom from all disturbance and distraction in a way that allows me to deeply experience tranquility, relaxation, harmony, and contentment amidst all conditions. Now, what I do in the next categorization down from that is I take all the other values that I've categorized as relating to peace. So that's a piece of this process that I invite you to go into is categorize whatever values remain after you've selected your top 3 to 5 core values and slip them into one of those core values so you don't lose anything that's important to you. So for me, that would be spirituality, relaxation, freedom, satisfaction, and so the list goes. And then also those things that are valuable, because even though they may be materialistic in nature and fleeting and temporary, we all need them, don't we, while we're hanging out on the planet here. So have some clarity around that. And for me, those are things like ease and meditation and silence and stability. My second core value is love. My defining statement is the practice of embracing myself and all people, things, and conditions in my world with unconditional understanding, acceptance, compassion, gratitude, and celebration. Now, that would be for me a professed value that I do not always exercise. Just put me in a grocery store behind a lady that has a temper while I'm trying to check out, or a rude person on the roadway who seems to not have control over their automobile and thinks they need to go in front of me before I think they should. So we get constant, and in fact, my friends, the more clarity and focus that you have around what's important, you can expect that there may be situations show up in your life that make it difficult for you to stay in alignment with that value. Don't see that as a plague. See that as an opportunity. It's the universe giving you the chance to really stand up for what is important to you, and again, live in integrity with it. Because if I tell you I'm an unconditional lover, and I can't love the lady in the grocery store, and I can't love the individual out on the roadway, I'm out of integrity. Not good, not bad, not right, and not wrong. Just, I'm out of integrity. When we're out of integrity, my friends, we don't feel good. It could be anywhere from just a slight discomfort to a really strong feeling. But when we're out of alignment, energy goes into places that it could be better utilized, my friends. So every time you get a little clearer and a little more authentic with the value, every time you do that, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have more enthusiasm for life, and you're going to feel better about yourself because you're going to know what's important to you, and you're going to have a life that demonstrates that. But you take it in tiny little steps, and when you fall out of alignment, you don't come down on yourself. And we all have that little voice that loves to judge us and come down on us, don't we? We have no room for that. We have no need for that. Once you have established your core values, you've got an idea of what each one of those means to you by definition, you'll be given the opportunity to check out your personal belief system, because your beliefs, I believe, are born from your values. And so you can begin the exploration. We talked last week about audaciously creating your own religion. And what I'm talking about here is getting clear on what's important to you and then looking at your belief system to see how it weighs out in terms of what is important to you. What beliefs are supporting your values and what beliefs perhaps are not supporting your values. And again, every time you bring your beliefs into closer alignment with your values, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have more enthusiasm and excitement for life, and things are going to run more smoothly for you because the universe loves a value-oriented individual. The universe loves people that are living in integrity with what is most important to them. Neville Goddard, who is one of my favorite authors, if you have not ever read him, I suggest you maybe just check out that name, Neville Goddard. He says, believe in its reality and it will become your experience. Believe in its reality. So now we know what's important. We're aligned with it. We're bringing our beliefs in there to support that value and moving us forward in the expression of that value. And we're welcoming it as we see evidence when it becomes our experience. Abraham Hicks. Any Abraham Hicks fans in the room? That's nice to see. I love Abraham Hicks. Listen to this. When you have a desire and your beliefs line up with it, it is. When you have a desire and your beliefs line up with it, it is. The only thing, in the Bible it tells us, does it not? Ask and it is given. How many of you have asked and then you're looking around going, I don't see anything anywhere. I've asked and asked and asked for a healthy body and a healthy mind and a healthy bank account, and I don't see any evidence. Well, the key here is that you cannot receive anything that you don't believe in. So it's not just enough to put the ask out. In putting the ask out, the absolute or spiritual reality becomes manifest in your world, but you have to open yourself to that. And the way that we do that is by getting in touch with our beliefs and making sure they're in alignment with that which we have asked for. So I've given you some examples on the handout of how you can begin to put your beliefs into written form. Now, this goes back to when I was in ministerial school in 1980s. The 1980s. Whew. We were asked as part of our assignment before we could graduate from ministerial school to develop a credo that was a written synopsis of our belief system. And that's what I'm suggesting that you do here. Any level of energy that you put into this idea will benefit you. But if you want to take it all the way, take it to the point of beginning to articulate your beliefs. And I've given you just a few of the beliefs that I'm working with to support my values. Under peace, I believe I can live a beautiful, easy, joyous, relaxed, and happy life. On a good day. I believe that. But when I really look at it, and having grown up in unity, I'm full of these positive words, But it's not enough just to throw the positive words out there. You've got to get it into the core of your being. You've got to be able to wake up in the morning and say to yourself, I believe I can live a beautiful, easy, joyous, relaxed, happy life. Because according to your belief, it is done unto you. And you have the ability to believe in anything you want. What you're experiencing in your life right now, you're experiencing it because you believe in its validity. And there's no other reason. It's that simple. There's no true or false out there. It's, do you believe it? You got it. Do you not believe it? You don't got it. So the alignment of your beliefs with your values really starts to get powerful, my friends, extraordinarily powerful. Under love beliefs, I'm going to bounce down to the second one because I got two of them there that I offer to you, or I got a nest of them. So actually on your list, I'm not sure where it lies. But here's the one I'm going to focus on with you this morning. I believe I don't have to listen to the ongoing narrative of condemnatory judgment in my head. Oh, I so want to believe that. But even after decades of being totally immersed in this unity way of life, I amaze myself with some of the things I find myself thinking about other people and circumstances and life. So that is a professed but also truly of value. You see, but that's the thing now. I've got this information here. So when I wake up in the morning, throughout the day, when I go to sleep at night, I can say to myself, well, how much am I listening to the ongoing narrative of condemnatory judgment? And it's always running at a theater near you. Have you noticed? It never stops. Well, they should never do this, and look at that, and isn't that disgusting? You know, it's endless. It goes on and on and on. We're the only ones that can stop it, and we can stop it by beginning to wake up to what we're really believing and living in greater and greater integrity with it. Roy E. Disney, I think the last time or two that I was with you, I told you what a Disney lover I am. Such great respect for Walt Disney and his phenomenal visionary ability and his imagination. You may not know that his brother played a hugely instrumental role in the success of the Walt Disney Empire. He was more the businessman, whereas Walt was more the Imagineer, as he liked to call himself and others. But it was Roy who, after Walt's death, was actually the one that pursued the project, the Florida project, of creating Walt Disney World in Central Florida. He said these words: "It is not hard to make a decision once you know what your values are." It's not hard. In fact, it's easy once you're clear on what matters to you. We invest so much time, my beloved friends, in pondering decisions, in determining priorities in our life, in charting the course as to where we want to go and how we want to get there, in scheduling our time and investing our money and our resources. We spend a lot of time in this. Sometimes we spend days, weeks, months trying to make a decision. So my invitation to you this morning is, instead of spending all that time on all those decisions and all those priorities, spend the time. Dear God, please spend the time to get clear on your values. I told you this last week. I'm telling it you this morning, and I will probably say it again next week. If we want to change this world, what is this world? This world is nothing more, nothing less than a reflection of the dynamic that is taking place within our own mind, our own heart, and our own consciousness. If we want this world to change, it's not going to happen until we become the change that we are looking for. Thank you, Gandhi. And every one of us has the ability to do that. My invitation, my heartfelt invitation and encouragement to you is to take the time investing in the most important thing you can ever invest in. Get clear on what's important to you. Live in integrity with it. And you have the ability to wake up every morning not only living the best life you can possibly live, but also as well making the greatest contribution any human being can ever make to seeing peace on earth and goodwill toward all. God bless you. I really do believe, my friends, there's enough of us in this room. There's more than enough of us in this room to pull this off and make a planetary difference. Yes. And I think that's the invitation that's before us. So now we get to take all that blabber and turn it into stillness. And I believe it would not be possible for you to be in this room this morning if this experience were not meant for you. And I'm not just talking about the words I spoke. I'm talking about being together with other individuals who are ready to move with power and grace and glory and beauty out into the world, making the difference that can only be made from within to without. So we call upon our authentic nature and the Spirit of God that indwells us right now. We ask that we be led and guided, each one of us in our own unique way, toward understanding and living in integrity with that which is most important to us. We love everybody that's ever suggested a value to us in our lives. But we have reached a point in our spiritual maturity where it is time for us to call the shot. It is time for us to awaken to that which God has planted within our heart. Our own convictions, what we have come to believe in and come to trust and come to live. As you open your mind to receive in this moment, trust, whether you are consciously aware of it or not, something is opening within your consciousness. Something is being remembered. Something is waiting for you. Something wants more than anything to be lived by you. And as I have received, I now give as the fountain of life that I am. I pray that my life become more and more with each passing day a living example of that which I value, of that which I believe in, of that which I know and that which I trust. And together we behold the new earth, the new day, the new light, and the new love. Thank you, God.